light on the port side. Each light has an arc of horizon of 112.5 degrees. It is placed to show light from right ahead to 22.5 degrees aft of the beam on either side. The side lights may be combined in one lantern and kept on the fore and aft center line in case of a vessel less than 20 meters, or about 65.6 feet. According to Rule 21C, the stern light is a while light placed as practicable as possible to stern. It shows light over an arc of 67.5 degrees from center to either side. The total arc is 135 degrees. Rule 21D states that a towing light is a yellow light having same characteristics as stern light. It is kept above the stern light. The towing light must be in a vertical line above the stern light according to paragraph A, subparagraph 4. Rule 21E mentioned that all-round light should show an unbroken light over an arc of the horizon of 360 degrees. According to Rule 21F, a flashing light gives 120 flashes or more per minute at regular intervals. Other applications of flashing light are applied in Rule 23 power-driven vessels, paragraph 1, requires the flashing light for air-cushioned vessels. B. Light flashing at regular intervals. Flashing lights are carried by air-cushioned vessels, Rule 23B. Purse seine fishers, Annex 2, 3. And wing in ground craft. Rule 23C. Rule 22 addresses light visibility, stating that lights must be visible at minimum ranges, in nautical miles, determined by the type of vessel. To view the rule provisions, click the button below. The table below summarizes the rule's coverage. The table below shows the minimum luminous ranges for lights. The following illustrations describe the standard visibility of lights for vessels with a length of 50 meters, or 164 feet, or more. A masthead light, visible within 6 miles. A side light, visible within 3 miles. A stern light, visible within 3 miles. A towing light, visible within 3 miles. A white, red, green or yellow all-round light, visible within 3 miles. The following illustrations describe the standard visibility of lights for vessels with a length of 12 meters, 39 feet, or more but less than 50 meters, or 164 feet. A masthead light, 5 miles, except that where the length of the vessel is less than 20 meters, visible within 3 miles. A side light, visible within 2 miles. A stern light, visible within 2 miles. A towing light, visible within 2 miles. A white, red, green or yellow all-round light, visible within 2 miles. The following illustrations describe the standard visibility of lights for vessels less than 12 meters, or 39.4 feet. A masthead light, visible within 2 miles. A side light, visible within 1 mile. A stern light, visible within 2 miles. A towing light, visible within 2 miles. A white, red, green or yellow all-round light, visible within 2 miles. Furthermore, in inconspicuous, partly submerged vessels or objects being towed, the requirements are white all-round light, within 3 miles. Rule 23 deals with the lights that must be carried by power-driven vessels underway. To view the rule provisions, click the button below. Rule 23A states that a power-driven vessel underway shall exhibit masthead light forward. Second masthead light, abaft of, and higher than the forward one, vessel of less than 50 meters in length, shall not be obliged to exhibit such light but may do so. Sidelights. Stern light. This setup is utilized for both making and not making way. Rule 23B states that in the non-displacement mode, an air-cushion vessel emits an all-around flashing yellow light, instead of typical power-driven lights. Air-cushion vessels can be described as partially afloat, or completely supported by an air-cushion. Top speeds of up to 80 miles per hour. Subject to wind. Their silhouette or lights may differ from their course. And some make excessive noise, and sound signals may not be heard. Several types of air-cushion vessels are shown below. Hovercraft, hydrofoil, and jetfoil.
Rule 23C described that wing-in-ground craft must have the following features during takeoff, landing, or flight near the surface. 1. The same lights as a power-driven vessel. 2. A bright red light that flashes all over the place. Rule 23C described that wing-in-ground craft must have the following features during takeoff, landing, or flight near the surface. 1. The same lights as a power-driven vessel. 2. A bright red light that flashes all over the place. Rule 23C described that wing-in-ground craft must have the following features.
Rule 23D, 1, and 3, is summarized as power-driven vessel of less than 12 meters in length, off-centerline masthead light or all-around white light, with sidelights. Rule 23D, 2, states that a power-driven vessel of less than 7 meters in length, maximum speed of 7 knots shall exhibit same lights as larger power-driven vessels, or an all-around white light and, if possible, a red light. And sidelights or a lantern with sidelights, Rule 21, C. Rule 23 states that a second masthead light may be visible even on a less than 50 meters long vessel. Furthermore, along with her other navigation lights, a hovercraft displays a yellow flashing light all around her. The details of the range of navigation lights involving vessels of varying lengths are shown in the following video.
A power-driven vessel in motion has a forward masthead light, side lights, and a stern light. If the length of the vessel exceeds 50 meters 164 feet, a second masthead light should be installed behind the first one, and in a higher position. When in non-displacement mode, an air-cushioned vessel must display an all-around flashing yellow light in addition to the masthead light, side lights, and stern light. When landing, flying close to the surface or taking off, a wing-in-ground craft shall display a flashing red light in addition to the other navigation lights. Some masthead light and side light variations are permitted in the following cases. An all-around white light and side lights are adequate for a power-driven vessel of less than 12 meters, or 39.4 feet. An all-around white light is adequate for a power-driven vessel measuring less than 7 meters, or 23 feet, and traveling at less than 7 knots. If at all possible, it should have side lights. According to Rule 23(d)(3), the masthead light, or an all-round white light on a power-driven vessel of less than 12 meters, 39.4 feet, in length may be displaced from the fore and aft centerline of the vessel if centerline filling is not practicable, provided that the side lights are combined in one lantern, which shall be carried on the fore and aft centerline of the vessel, or located as nearly as practicable in the same fore and aft line as the masthead light, or the all-round white light.
Rule 24 Towing and Pushing. Rule 24 addresses lights for towing and pushing vessels. To view the rule provisions, click the button below. Let us first define towing. The act of pulling something along on water with a rope or chain is known as towing. Now let us define composite unit and draconi. A composite unit, paragraph B, is made up of two or more units that can be mechanically locked together using a tug. When they are so intertwined, they become a single power-driven vessel. A draconi is a large rubber bag that is usually filled with oil, paragraph G(1). As a result, it floats just below the surface and is extremely difficult to see. Draconis were widely used after World War II, in the 1950s and 1960s, but with the advent of MARPOL regulations, they have become more of a liability and are now rarely, if ever, used. Towing and pushing vessels are divided into several categories as enumerated below. Power-driven vessels, tow 200 meter, or less. Power-driven vessel tow exceeding 200 meter. Composite unit. Power-driven vessel pushing ahead. Power-driven vessel towing alongside. Vessel or object being towed. Vessel being pushed ahead. Vessel being towed alongside. Inconspicuous partly submerged vessel or object being towed. There are only three towing configuration groups. The composite unit. Towing behind which are the same as for international and inland. And pushing ahead or towing alongside. Composite units can be described as: the composite units that are rigidly connected are treated as a single power-driven vessel, whereas it applies to sound signals as well. Furthermore, it has interpretive rules, which do not include vessels linked by lines, hawsers, wires, or chains. Let us now discuss towing astern. For masthead light configurations based on the size of the towing vessel and the length of the tow. Towing vessels of 50 m or more must display headlights in accordance with Rule 23A(2), and, for inland operations, Rule 23A(1)(1). Tow less than or at least 200 meters, 2 masthead lights in a vertical line. And, tow length greater than 200 meters, 3 masthead lights in a vertical line and a diamond day shape, also on towed vessel. The following lights illustrations will give you more understanding regarding Rule 24. Towing vessel 50 meters or less in length, with a tow length of 200 meters or less, as seen from ahead. The tow is too small to be seen from this angle. Tug with a tow length of less than 200 meters, starboard side open. A vessel of less than 50 meters in length engaged in towing, with a tow length of less than 200 meters as seen from the port. Vessel towing less than 50 meters, with a tow length greater than 200 meters, starboard side open. Vessel towing, possibly greater than 50 meters in length, with a tow length of less than 200 meters, starboard side open. Tug with a tow of less than 200 meters, open port side. From the aft, a vessel engaged in towing with a tow. Tug with a tow of more than 200 meters, open starboard side, pushing but not a composite unit. Tug with a tow of more than 200 meters, open starboard side, towing a log boom. Towing vessel, most likely a log boom, seen from astern. Vessel engaged in towing with a possible length of tow greater than 200 meters, starboard side open. The vessel is towing, as seen from astern, and the tow is seen from starboard. You could be in danger of colliding. The following video shows the lights that should be displayed by vessels while towing and pushing.
When towing, a power-driven vessel must not emit the same light as a normal power-driven vessel. It should show 2 vertically aligned masthead lights. It should display side lights, as well as stern light. Additionally, the towing light should be visible vertically above the stern light. When the length of the tow from the stem of the towing vessel to the after end of the tow exceeds 200 meters, or 656 feet, 3 masthead lights in a vertical line must be displayed. When the towing vessel's length exceeds 50 meters, 164 feet, an additional masthead light is installed aft and higher than the forward one. When the tow length exceeds 200 meters, or 656 feet, a diamond shape should be placed where it can be seen best. A normal power-driven vessel is formed when a pushing vessel and a vessel being pushed are rigidly connected. When a power-driven vessel pushes another vessel that is not rigidly connected to it, the pushing vessel should display 2 masthead lights in a vertical line. It should display side lights, as well as stern light. When a pushing vessel's length exceeds 50 meters, 164 feet, an additional masthead light is installed aft and higher than the forward one. Other than an inconspicuous partly submerged vessel, a vessel or object being towed must have side lights and a stern light. If the length of the tow exceeds 200 meters, or 656 feet, it should display a diamond during the day. A pushed vessel must have side lights at the forward end. When towed alongside, a vessel must display stern lights in addition to side lights. An inconspicuous partially submerged vessel, or towed object should have an all-around white light at both the forward and after ends. If the object's length exceeds 100 meters, 328 feet, additional all-around white light must be displayed so that the distance between any two lights is less than 100 meters, or 328 feet. If the breadth is greater than 25 meters, or 82 feet, two additional all-around white lights must be displayed at or near the breadth's extremities. During the day, a diamond shape should be added to the end of the object. If the length of the tow exceeds 200 meters, or 656 feet, another diamond is added in front of the object. When it is impractical for a vessel, or an object being towed, or a partially submerged vessel, or object being towed, for any reason, the towing vessel shall illuminate the vessel, or object being towed by any means, preferably by directing a beam of searchlight towards the vessel, or object being towed. When it is impractical for a towing vessel to display the lights prescribed in this rule because it is not normally engaged in towing operations, such a vessel shall, when towing a vessel in distress, display the normal lights of a power-driven vessel, in other words, the masthead lights according to her length, side lights and stern lights, and shall in addition illuminate the tow line by any means, preferably by directing a beam of searchlight towards it.
Rule 25, Sailing vessels underway and vessels under oars. This rule specifies the additional lights that must be displayed by a sailing vessel when it is underway, in addition to the side lights and stern light. To view the rule provisions, click the button below. A sailing vessel is one that sails and relies solely on the wind for propulsion as referred to Rule 3C. A vessel under oars is a small vessel that is propelled manually using oars. Classes to consider are any size of sailing vessels, sailing vessels of less than 20 meters in length, sailing vessels of less than 7 meters in length, oar-powered vessels, and mechanically propelled sailing vessels. A sailing vessel must have the following features: side lights, stern light. Rule 21B and C, as well as Annex 1, Paragraph 3B. Moreover, when sailing alone, there will be no shapes required. Lights and shape. A stern light and a side light. Sailing vessels of less than 20 meters in length may combine the lights into a single lantern and carry it where it can be seen the best. A vessel proceeding under sail, while also being propelled by machinery, shall exhibit a conical shape, apex downward, forward where it can be seen. Identification lights. For sailing vessels, a red all-around light over a green all-around light at the masthead is optional. Side and stern lights. Side lights and stern lights are visible when the boat is moving, even when it is stopped in the water. Sailing vessels under 20 meters in length can combine these three lights into a single combined lantern with the same colors and arcs. This is displayed at the masthead, but not when the engine is used for propulsion, when the boat displays lights for a power-driven vessel, and the masthead light is distinct from the side lights. Sailing vessels less than 7 meters in length should, if possible, display side and stern lights. If not, they should have a strong enough white torch to avoid a collision. The images below demonstrate proper light signal positioning for a sailing vessel. A sailing vessel underway. A sailing vessel underway and sailing. A sailing vessel, less than 20 meters, using a combined masthead lantern. A sailing vessel, less than 50 meters, propelling itself by power. The next video explains the lights that a sailing vessel and a vessel propelled by oars should display.
A sailing vessel underway should have side lights and stern lights. Side lights and stern lights can be combined in one lantern and carried at or near the top of the mast on a sailing vessel less than 20 meters, or 65.6 feet. In addition to the side and stern lights, the sailing vessel must have two all-round lights, the lower of which is green and the upper of which is red. These two all-round lights are not necessary if the side lights are united in one lantern. If the sailing vessel lights are not possible for a sailing vessel shorter than 7 meters, or 23 feet, in length, it can display a lantern or a handheld torch. Similarly, if sailing vessel lights are not practical for vessels under oars, a lantern or a handheld torch can be displayed. When a vessel is sailing and being powered by machinery simultaneously, it should display a cone with the apex pointing downwards at a visible location.
Rule 26 Fishing Vessels. Rule 26 describes the various lights that a fishing vessel must display depending on whether it is underway or at anchor, trawling or fishing in another manner. To view the rule provisions, click the button below. The following shapes and light requirements for fishing vessels, trawling are shown below. The images below demonstrate proper light and shape signal positioning for a fishing vessel's trawling. A trawler, less than 50 meters long, making way. A trawler, more than 50 meters long, making way. Trawler of less than 50 meters in length, seen from ahead. Trawler, possibly larger than 50 meters in length, making way, as seen from her port side. Trawler making its way through the water, seen from astern. The following shapes and light requirements for fishing vessels, other than trawling, are shown below. The images below demonstrate proper light and shape signal positioning for a fishing vessels, other than trawling. Fishing vessel making way. Fishing vessel not making way. Fishing vessel not making way, with its gear extending more than 150 meters in the direction of the white light. Fishing vessel making way, as seen from her bow. Here are some reminders in implementing Rule 26. Any fishing vessel must have the lights specified in the rule on board. Small fishing vessels are not exempt from this rule. Because they have a high degree of privilege over other vessels under Rule 18, they only show the lights and shapes prescribed in Rule 26, and they must keep clear of other hampered vessels as far as possible. When making their way through the water, all fishing vessels are required to display their side lights and stern lights. These are one of the few types of vessels for which it is possible to say whether they are underway and making way or just underway. It should also be noted that a single masthead light is only required for fishing vessels engaged in trawling that are longer than 50 meters in length and is optional for those that are shorter. When they stop trawling, they revert to being a regular power-driven vessel and must display the lights for a vessel of that length. Signals. Signal P, my nets have come fast upon an obstruction. Signal U, you are running into danger. Signal G, I am hauling nets. Signal T, keep clear of me, I am engaged in pair trawling. Signal Z, I am shooting nets. The following media will show the signals that should be displayed by fishing vessels.
Trawling occurs when a vessel drags a net. 2 all-round lights are required for a trawler. The upper portion is green, and the lower part is white. During the day, it will show 2 cones in a vertical line, one above the other, with their apexes pointing in the same direction. A masthead light must be visible behind and above the all-round green light if the vessel is 50 meters, or 164 feet, or longer. The masthead light may not be visible on vessels under 50 meters, or 164 feet. It should have sidelights and sternlights while making way. When a vessel is fishing but not trawling, it should have 2 all-around lights turned on. On top of white, there's a layer of red. In daytime, a similar set of cones as in trawling vessels. When a fishing vessel's outlaying gear extends 150 meters, or 492 feet, it should emit an all-around white light in the gear's direction. During the day, a cone with an upward apex replaces the white light. When a fishing vessel is making way, it should have side lights and stern lights on. When a fishing vessel is not fishing, it should display the lights of a typical power-driven vessel rather than the fishing lights.
Rule 27, vessels not under command, or restricted in their ability to maneuver. Rule 27 deals with the unusual case of vessels that have lost power or are constrained in their maneuverability. Mine clearance, dredging, towing, and diving vessels are all included in this category. To view the rule provisions, click the button below. Rule 27 considers the following conditions. Vessels not under command. Vessels restricted in their ability to maneuver. Vessels engaged in difficult towing operations. Vessels restricted in their ability to maneuver, such as those engaged in dredging or underwater operations if there is an obstruction. Small vessels engaged in diving operations. And vessels engaged in minesweeping. We will discuss the light and shape requirements for vessels not under command. A red all-around light on top of a red all-around light. Only use the stern light and side lights when making way. Day shape, 2 vertically aligned balls. And there are no masthead lights. At this point, the following illustration will discuss the light and shape requirements for vessels restricted in their ability to maneuver. A vessel with limited maneuverability, other than one engaged in mine clearance operations. Red over red all-around lights. Stern light, masthead light or lights, side lights, and stern light when making way. If anchored, the lights or day shape specified in Rule 30. Day shape, ball over diamond over ball. If the vessel is also towing, it must display the lights required by Rule 24. Note that it only applies to towing astern for international. Underwater operations, also known as dredging, includes divers. 2 all-around red lights or balls to indicate the obstruction's location. 2 all-around green lights or diamonds on the side of the vessel through which another vessel may pass. When at anchor, use these shapes rather than the ones specified in Rule 30. Small diving vessels must have the following features. All-around red over red lighting. A rigid replica of the International Code Flag A, measuring at least 1 meter in height, at night as well. A vessel engaged in mine clearance operations must display the lights required for a power-driven vessel, or a vessel at anchor. 3 all-around green lights or balls, 1 at the foremast head and 1 on each yardarm. This indicates that approaching within 1,000 meters is dangerous. Here are some important reminders to be considered for a vessel that is underway at night, and making way through the water suddenly, becomes a vessel not under command. Switch off the masthead lights. Turn on 2 all-red lights in a vertical line. She should turn off the side lights and the stern light as soon as the vessel stops moving through the water. The following media shows the signals that should be displayed by the vessels not under command, NUC, and restricted in their ability to maneuver, RAM.
Two all-round red lights in a vertical line indicate that the vessel is not under command. It should show 2 black balls in a vertical line during the day, where they may be viewed the best. It should have side lights and stern lights when traveling over water. A vessel with limited maneuverability should display 3 lights in a vertical line. The top and bottom are red, while the center is white. During the day, it should display a ball, diamond, and a ball in a vertical line in the best visible location. It should exhibit masthead lights, side lights, and stern light when making its way through water, in addition to the red, white-red lights. Instead of masthead lights, side lights, and stern lights, it displays anchor lights as well as red, white, and red lights when at anchor. When a power-driven vessel is pulling, and has limited maneuverability, it shows side lights, stern lights, and masthead lights in proportion to the length. It should also display red, white, and red light. A vessel engaged in dredging or underwater operations must display red, white, and red light, or ball, diamond, and ball in the daytime. When making way, the masthead lights, side lights, and stern light should all be visible. It must also display a vertical line with 2 all-round red lights on the side, with an obstruction, and 2 all-round green lights on the side where it is safe to pass. Even when at anchor, a dredger will not display anchor lights. 2 black balls during the day replace the red lights, while 2 diamonds replace the green lights. The 2 red lights on the obstruction side and 2 green lights on the safe side are not required to be displayed by a diving vessel. However, the red, white, and red lights should be displayed in a vertical line. It should also display a rigidly lighted replica of the International Code Flag A. A mine-clearing vessel must have the lights of a typical power-driven vessel. In addition, 3 all-round green lights, 1 at the foremast and 1 at either end of the foreyard, should be visible. This is to advise other ships to keep at least 1,000 meters away, or 3,281 feet. When at anchor, in addition to the 3 all-round green lights, it should display anchor lights. 3 green lights at the foremast are replaced by 3 black balls throughout the day. Vessels less than 12 meters, or 39.4 feet, in length that are not involved in diving operations are exempt from Regulation 27.
Rule 28, Vessels constrained by their draft. In addition to the lights recommended for power-driven vessels in Rule 23, a vessel constrained by her draft may display 3 all-around red lights in a vertical line, or cylinder where they can be seen best. A vessel that is constrained by her draft may exhibit the following characteristics. At night, 1 or 2 masthead lights, side lights, a stern light, 3 all-around red lights in a vertical line. During the daytime, the rule states to use black cylinder. The images below demonstrate proper light and shape signal positioning for vessels constrained by their draft. At day, vessels constrained by draft display a cylinder. At night they display 3 red lights in a vertical line, in addition to the lights for a vessel of that length. Here are some important reminders to be considered for vessels constrained by their draft. The prescribed lights are frequently confused with a vessel aground, which exhibits a completely different set of lights and shapes, as discussed further in Rule 30. Furthermore, a constrained by her draft vessel is always assumed to be large. This is not always the case, as the rule governing the definition is directly related to the available depth and width of navigable water. As a result, a vessel with a length of less than 50 meters could be constrained by her draft. Vessels constrained by draft do not have absolute priority over other vessels. See also comment on Rule 18, d. Vessels in their vicinity, on the other hand, should avoid impeding their passage as much as possible. The following video will explain the signals that should be displayed by vessels constrained by their draft.
A vessel constrained by her draft may exhibit 3 all-around red lights in a vertical line, from where it may be seen best, in addition to the lights shown by a regular power-driven vessel. A cylinder is used.
Rule 29, Pilot Vessels. Rule 29 describes the lighting requirements for pilot vessels. To view the rule provisions, click the button below. The following are light and shape requirements that a pilot vessel shall observe. A white all-around light placed over a red all-around light. Side lights and stern lights when underway. In addition to the lights listed in Rule 30, if anchored. Pilot vessel, or vessels with a pilot aboard, may display the International Code Flag H. This has the meaning I have a pilot aboard. Ferries may display a similar flag but the colors are white above red horizontal bands. This indicates that the master is a pilot. At night, pilot vessels display all around white over red lights. Because pilot vessels do not have a masthead light, it is impossible to determine the vessel's length. A pilot vessel at anchor may be difficult to distinguish from one seen from behind. The speed of the vessel will usually indicate whether or not one is making way. A pilot vessel at anchor length is unknown. Here are some important reminders to be considered in observing Rule 29, Pilot Vessels. Don't confuse pilot vessel lights with fishing vessel lights. The vessel's operations are completely dissimilar. In exceptional circumstances, a pilot vessel may guide a vessel through a channel or to a harbor. There is no distinction between a pilot vessel that is moving through the water and one that is not making way through the water. When not engaged in pilotage duty, she shall display the lights or shapes appropriate for a vessel of her length. The following media shows the signals that should be displayed by pilot vessels.
When engaged in pilotage duties, a vessel should display 2 all-round lights near the mast. The upper is white, and the lower is red. When underway, the pilot vessel should also have side lights and a stern light. When at anchor, it should display the standard anchor lights. When it is not engaged in pilotage, it displays the lights of a normal power-driven vessel.
Rule 30, Anchored Vessels and Vessels Aground. Light requirements for vessels anchored and aground are covered in Rule 30. To view the rule provisions, click the button below. The following vessels are considered by Rule 30. Anchored vessel of less than 7 meters in length. Aground vessel of less than 12 meters in length. Aground or anchored vessel of less than 50 meters in length. Aground or anchored vessel of at least 50 meters in length. Aground or anchored vessel of more than 100 meters in length. A vessel at anchor must have an all-around white light, or ball in the forepart. An all-around white light, at, or near the stern that is lower in intensity than the light in the forepart. A vessel less than 50 meters vessel may emit an all-around white light. A vessel of more than or 100 meters in length must use available lights to illuminate her decks. The light and shape requirements for a ship that has run aground are enumerated below. A vertical line of 2 all-around red lights. 3 balls arranged in a vertical line. A round white light or a ball in the foreground. An all-around white light at, or near the stern that is lower in intensity than the light in the forepart. A vessel of less than 50 meters may emit a single all-around white light. Shapes illustration. A black ball is displayed on vessels that are at anchor. If this information is not displayed, it is possible that a vessel is underway, which could lead to a collision. This is especially likely when the tide is high, creating the illusion of a bow wave. Aground vessels have 3 black balls arranged in a vertical line. Light illustration. A vessel less than 50 meters in length only emits an all-round white light, where it is most visible. Even if the anchorage is quiet, this should be done because vessels may enter later, in the dark. Ships longer than 50 meters have 2 anchor lights. These are all-round lights, not the masthead lights that are used when the ship is underway. The one in front is also higher than the one in back. Deck lights are also used on large ships that are longer than 100 meters. This can cause confusion, because it may appear that you are approaching illuminated buildings ashore when entering an anchorage. When viewed from the side, vessels under 100 meters only show their all-round white lights. Deck lights will illuminate a vessel over 100 meters long at night. When several vessels are anchored in the same area, it can resemble a town. Vessels that have run aground display their anchor lights. They also display the lights for a vessel that is not under command. They can be thought of as being at anchor and not under command. Additionally, the following information can assist you in adhering to Rule 30. Progression in logical order. Not under command 2 red lights and 2 balls. Don't be deceived into thinking that a vessel that has run aground has 3 balls and 3 red lights. She has 3 balls and 2 red lights, plus anchor lights. During the day, ships aground show 3 black balls. This may be related to the anchor ball, which is attached to the bottom, as well as the 2 balls displayed by a vessel that is not under command. See Rule 27. They have 2 red lights, indicating a vessel not under command and their anchor lights on at night. The following video shows the signals that should be displayed by anchored and aground vessels.
When a vessel is at anchor, it should have an all-round white light at the bow and another all-around white light at a lower level at the stern. If the anchored vessel's length is less than 50 meters, or 164 feet, 1 all-round white light will suffice instead of 2. If the vessel is longer than 100 meters, or 328 feet, it should have working lights on the deck in addition to 2 anchor lights. Vessels of a shorter length may do so if necessary. Vessels less than 7 meters, or 23 feet, in length are exempt from the requirement to display the anchor lights if they are not in narrow channels or fairways, and are not in close proximity to other vessels. A vessel at anchor during the day, regardless of length, must display 1 black ball where it can be seen best. When a vessel is aground, it should display two all-round red lights in a vertical line from where it can be seen, in addition to the anchor lights for its length. During the day, 3 black balls in a vertical line replace the lights. If a vessel is less than 12 meters, or 39.4 feet, long and aground, it is not required to display the lights.
Rule 31, Seaplanes. Rule 31 addresses the lighting requirements for seaplanes. To view the rule provisions, click the button below. Rule 31 states that if a seaplane or a wing-in-ground craft is unable to display lights and shapes with the characteristics, or in the places specified in this part, she must display lights and shapes as closely as practicable. Where it is impractical for a seaplane or wing-in-ground craft to exhibit lights and forms of the characteristics, or in the positions provided in the rules of this part, she shall exhibit lights and shapes as closely equivalent in characteristics and position as is possible, according to Rule 31, Seaplanes. The shapes and lights used in this section are summarized in the following illustrations. The following illustrations will summarize the lighting requirements of this section. Rule 21, Definitions, can be summarized below. The following illustrations summarizes Rule 23, Power-driven vessels underway. The following illustrations summarizes Rule 24, Towing and pushing. The following illustrations summarizes Rule 25, Sailing vessels underway and vessels under oars. The following illustration summarizes Rule 26, Fishing vessels. The following illustration summarizes Rule 27, Vessels not under command or restricted in their ability to maneuver. The following illustration summarizes Rule 28, Vessels constrained by their draft. The following illustration summarizes Rule 29, Pilot vessels. The following illustration summarizes Rule 30, Anchored vessels and vessels aground. The following illustration shows a vehicular ferry constrained by cables. Let us test your knowledge of COLREGs Part C, Lights and Shapes. Continue to You have now completed the section. Return to the main